and persevered.
Prologue. Richard. Mine was an easy birth. It was a birth my mother would later tell me was fit for glory, fit for a prince. I was born early, as swift and as keen as a sword. My mother lay down to deliver, and I emerged 3 hours later. The moment I had air in my lungs, I screamed and I screamed, and I kept screaming until the entire court was raw with it. I was the 6th child, the 2nd son still living. I had no right to cry with the entitlement that I did, but I did. I wailed as if the weight of the crown was already upon my head. It was not so with Philip. Philip was born in high summer, just outside of Paris. His mother must have broiled in the birthing chamber as she awaited him, swaddled in sweat-soaked linens, the sun beating at the warped glass of the windows with impatient fists. 8 hours into the ordeal, she was rolled in a blanket, lifted off the bed, and tossed from side to side in a desperate attempt to draw him out. When he was finally tugged into the world, slippery and pale and silent, it took the frantic hands of a physician to rouse him. Even afterwards, or so he described it to me, his voice was thin and reedy, his breaths uneven, and his parents feared he would not survive the winter. But still, it was enough. Philip was no warrior, but something greater. He was a boy, as his father had wished 4 times before, a first son. One day, he would be king. Church bells tolled for the entire week. People danced in the streets. France sang his praises to the heavens themselves. Philip the God-given, he was called. I can only imagine how my father must have laughed at this, ruling from his throne in England, with 3 princes already to his name. I was with my mother at the time, but I remember her sitting with me, petting my head and murmuring into my ear. She often repeated these words as I grew older. "Richard," she told me, "although this child may become a king and you will not, you must never forget who you are. You are the grandson of an empress, the son of the King of England, and the future Duke of Aquitaine. You yield to no man." I told Philip what she had said years later. In hindsight, I doubt he believed me, but the way he smiled when I recounted it, his fingers curled around my wrist, my lips over the shell of his ear. Our little secret, Philip. I like to think that he wanted it to be true. It hadn't mattered. Not really. Nothing had mattered. With a pair of thrones between us, and my heart clutched like a rosary between his hands.
Part 1. Descore. Chapter 1. Philip. At 13 years old, I almost died. I had gone riding with the court and ventured out too far. The forests outside of Paris are lovely in the spring, carpeted with bluebells, sunlight weaving between the oaks. But as night fell that day and the clouds roiled, the trees became a labyrinth of clawing fingers. Stumbling between them, the flowers tugged at my feet, pulling me into the mud. I could do little but sit curled up amongst the roots of a wizened beech, praying I would survive the storm. I remained lost in the darkness with only the torrential rain to keep me company, and when they found me in the morning, I was coughing and shivering, clinging to consciousness. I was only half-formed at that age, and the sickness came quickly. I was laid out upon my bed, flushed and trembling, sprawled like a prisoner on the rack. I spent most of my childhood swaddled in luxuries, furs, tutors, vellum, but when I think of my youth, the first thing I remember is the tang of my sweat in the air. My mother digging her nails into my forearm as she chanted prayers, the bitter taste of herbs, and the fog of fever. I made the perfect picture of a martyr. Outside, the wind shrieked and rattled at the windows in zealous accusation. The foundations of the castle groaned with me. Physicians came and went like visiting pilgrims. They bled me until my pallor became corpse-like, and they argued incessantly over courses.